But hey, welcome to the show, first of all.
Thank you very much. Nice to talk to you again.
Yeah, it's great talking with you. Actor, activist, humanitarian, author, and the president of Death Penalty Focus. I saw this little 30-second video on YouTube, and it just blew me away. Let me just play this here for our viewers and listeners.
I've seen too much killing, and not just on TV. Since 1976, over 1,400 women and men have been executed in our prisons. Some were later found to be innocent. In California, 743 people in cages on death row wait to die. 60% are people of color. 20 states where people are safe have no death penalty. Why do we? It's a dark time in America. Join me in asking Governor Brown to declare a moratorium on executions and commute all death sentences to life in prison. For a just, moral state, end the death penalty in California.
This is remarkable. The website is deathpenalty.org. The Twitter handle is DPFocus, as in Death Penalty Focus. Mike, tell us about Death Penalty Focus and about the work that you're doing.
Well, it's an abolition organization, a 501c3 educational organization. I've been the chair for 25 years, I guess now.
Wow.
President, I should say, chair. We have a new chair. President of the board of directors, and we've been working. It's sort of been an uphill slog, as you know, Tom, with the public kind of wedded to the notion that the death penalty is somehow justified and appropriate. But we've worked through education and as much outreach as we could do legally, as well as two attempts to put forward initiatives here in California, where we have the largest death row in the nation, to just waken people to the fact that the death penalty really brutalizes us all. It's racist in application. It costs a hell of a lot more money than does keeping people in prison for the rest of their lives, if necessary. But it entraps and kills innocent people. So it's simply a blot on everything that we believe this country is about, and more and more we are coming to the understanding. We as a people are coming to the understanding that we really don't need this, and it's not serving us.
Yeah, I think that, correct me if I'm wrong, but of the OECD countries, the 34 developed countries in the world, I think we're the only one that still has a death penalty, aren't we?
Yes, that's right. The European Union has given it. Matter of fact, in order to become a member of the European Union, you have to agree to give up the death penalty. When I started this, and it's not just me, but when we, I should say, started this, of the 190, say, organizations that recognized as such by the states, recognized as such by the United Nations, about 30 were abolitionist states, and the rest were using or at least had on the books the death penalty. And today it's reversed. Today there are only about 35, I think, killing countries. And
in the entire world?
In the world.
Yeah, it's remarkable. There's been, George Herbert Walker Bush having died this weekend and being buried on Wednesday. There's been a renewed conversation, particularly among communities of color, particularly in the African-American community, about how consequential Bush's decision in 1988 to use the Willie Horton ad in order to become president, how consequential that decision was, because in large part what it did is it caused the Democrats, specifically Bill Clinton, who became president 4 years later, to conclude that that in order to beat a Republican like Mike Dukakis had failed to do, you had to be, tough as nails, quote, tough on crime, and that meant cracking down on people of color, cracking down on welfare for people of color, and cracking down on and beating your chest and roaring about the death penalty, which is mostly disproportionately applied to people of color. And that was the story in many regards of the Clinton presidency, right through minimum mandatory sentences and all this kind of stuff. Are we, and we've kind of hung out in that place ever since. I was expecting Obama to reverse a lot of this stuff, and to the best of my knowledge, he didn't. But it seems to me that outside of the angry white echo chamber that exists in right-wing hate radio and Fox News, which is perhaps 20% of the American population, and Trump world, outside of that, it seems like Americans, left, right, and center, are waking up to the obscenity of the death penalty? Or am I reading this wrong?
No.
What does it seem to you like the trends are going? And do you agree with that analysis of that '88 election?
Oh, indeed. It wasn't the first, obviously. I mean, we've been doing this for years, but it was the most egregious in the modern era, I think. And from that point, the death penalty used to be what was known as the third rail of democratic politics. You just couldn't touch it. You couldn't say that you didn't like it. You couldn't say that you opposed it. You really had to be, as you suggest, tough on crime and killing all the people. And Clinton went down to Arkansas and presided over the execution of Ricky Ray Rector, a brain-damaged man who didn't know that he was actually being executed and left the dessert for his last meal in the cell from which he was taken for when he returned.
Wow.
But yes, in the last 10 years, we have now had 10 states, Washington State being the most recent, give up the death penalty. Some through legislative action, some through gubernatorial action, and always with the result being that instead of the crime rate rising, as people suggest, number of murders rising, it's been just the reverse. So people are, and the savings in money, and I hate to put a dollar and cents tag on the issue of life, but in terms of the expenditure of tax money, people have found that you get much more bang for your buck by doing the right thing with your tax money instead of wasting it on killing people and maintaining the kind of systems that do such harm, not only to the people that are executed, but to the people who are doing the executing, the people who we deputize to take lives in our name and suffer for it.
Yeah. Did you see Michael Moore's Next to the Last movie, Where to Invade Next?
No, I haven't seen it yet.
If I may recommend that to you, in that movie there is the one part of the movie where I actually started crying sitting in the theater. In fact, I'm close to it just thinking of it. Was where he went to Norway and looked at their prison system and talked to them about how they treat their prisoners and their thoughts on the death penalty. And it is so powerful. I mean, it's just so powerful. If it was possible to get Michael Moore to even give anybody permission to extract that clip and spread it far and wide, it would be so. But anyway, what can we do about this? We're talking with Mike Farrell, the actor, activist, humanitarian, author, and president of Death Penalty Focus. Deathpenalty.org is the website. DP Focus is the Twitter handle. People who are listening or watching right now and saying to themselves, yeah, this really is a big deal. What do I do?
Well, one thing they can do is, as I suggested in the spot you played, is contact Governor Brown. Jerry Brown, we all know, philosophically opposes the death penalty. For some reason, he has refused to stand up on the issue since he's been in office this second time. He didn't support either of our initiatives in 2012 or 2016 to do away with the death penalty. He didn't oppose it, but he didn't support it, which would have been all the difference. But what he can do now in the next 4 weeks, he's going to remain in office, is a number of things. He can simply declare a moratorium on death, say it is wrong, and begin the process of commuting sentences of death to sentences of life.
This would be a legacy builder.
Pardon me?
This would be a legacy builder for him.
Absolutely, I think it would be something that would accrue to his place in history in an extraordinary way. Because, as I said before, California we have 743 women and men on our death row in California.
Wow.
That's almost 25% of the entire country's death row. And if he were to end that, it would elevate him in the status in every way you can think of.
Right.
But it would also begin a process that I think is inexorable. It's happening anyway. Oregon probably will be next. Kansas is looking at it. There are so many of these states that have come to realize it serves them not at all. But I think Brown's action really could be the coup de grace, if you will,
right.
in this to this awful policy.
So people can figure out how to contact Jerry Brown, particularly if they're not Californians, through deathpenalty.org. You have that information on the website?
Yes,
okay,
indeed.
Great. So that's a great one. And I'd say track down that YouTube clip and share it with your friends. And great organization that you're doing here, the Death Penalty Focus. Mike Farrell. Mike, thanks so much for dropping by today.
My pleasure, Tom. Nice to talk to you.
Great talk. It's always great talking with you, Mike. And this is such a very, very important issue. It's literally life and death. Thank you.
Indeed.
We'll be right back. It's 17 minutes past the hour.